So back in the game, YusefWateef, and like a second ago, Ashley was just speaking blasphemously about my mustache, y'all. It was not even like, it was totally unnecessary. She's like, you and your that's okay. Just because your man ain't got one.
That's okay though. I just said you and your mustache and that doggone brush.
If you can't say anything nice.
That wasn't anything mean.
Oh, I beg to differ. Your tone of voice was quite blasphemous.
Interpretation.
Yeah, interpretation.
Intent.
Don't you come with that lawyer double talk on me.
I mean, I don't turn it off, so.
Ashley. Okay, first, let's get something out the way. Could you please explain to some of my friends that your initials in your last name are not JD?
No, that is not my last name.
Can you tell them what that actually means? I'm not pointing fingers, but a couple people were like, why didn't you just write out her name?
So, Juris Doctor, that's our, so like BS for Bachelor's of Science. That is the designation that attorneys get when they graduate law school. So I guess I should say lawyers get when they graduate law school. Yeah, it just designates that I graduated from law school.
Now, what's the difference between a lawyer and an attorney?
Traditionally, a lawyer is someone who has a JD, and an attorney is someone who's licensed. But because, most people don't know that, it's used interchangeably. You'll hear me say it interchangeably. There's no legal difference anymore.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, listen, I'm going to say something. Now, if you need to say it again, that's fine. But I'm going to say it first. For the people watching, our dear friend Ashley, JD, lawyer, attorney, is not giving people specific legal advice that you should just go out and do. We're speaking in theory. We're speaking in generalities. Think rainbows and sprinkles. Kind of like this may apply to you. And if you think it does, you should go find out more about it, because nobody here hired Ashley. She's not being paid, so she's not actually giving you advice that you should run out the house and do it. Now, I don't know, for legal purposes, do you have to repeat what I said, or is me saying it enough?
I'll say it periodically. Don't worry, it's a habit.
No, that's a smart habit, because as a financial professional, a former financial professional, I always have to tell people, because I get a lot of questions about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, mutual funds, and what I do and things like that. And I always have to tell people I am no longer licensed. I'm just a regular dude with a phenomenal mustache telling people what I think.
I am very licensed. I would like to keep my license. I do not have a mustache, and I do not work for free anymore.
Hey. We got some friends that have just popped into the chat as they're populating the fields. We may have a couple other people that pop in to say hello to us as well. Let's do this, because you popped in every now and then, and you always give us these little jewels of wisdom, a few nuggets here and there when we talk about my personal favorite subject, money. I want to go over some of the smaller things, and I'll tell you my situation. I'll use myself as the guinea pig. I know my viewers. I know the people who are watching this. The people who are watching this, most of them are people who either have something independent going for themselves, or they work for a corporation or the man, but they're building something for themselves. I tend to attract people who try to make their own money, but keep getting hit in the head by all those, well, since you're not already a mega corporation, we're going to just hammer you to try and take as much money as possible with Uncle Sam's hand in your pocket. It's kind of like that silent partner that you never, ever wanted. So let's do this. Where do you find most people's arrogance leads them to believe that they're smarter than the system, when in fact something they could do, or even myself, someone who is a regular guy with an independent business who, and by the way, America is the only country that makes me pay taxes when I'm not living there. Everybody else in the world, when they leave home, they pay taxes in their new country. No, 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 no. Uncle Sam, no matter where I go in the world, I pay taxes where I am, and I gotta pay taxes back home. Ain't that so?
Yeah. The biggest, the most arrogant thing that I see is refusing to ask for help or requiring credentials to accept that advice or to even, research it further. I am not a CPA. I'm eligible to sit for the exam. However, after taking the bar exam, I'm good. I don't need another standardized test. But yeah, like I'll run into people all the time. Oh, are you a CPA? No. And like they're automatically not listening anymore. So
Wow.
Just not being open.
So you're saying that, like most things I've learned and that I've been able to learn for myself, internalized, and help other people with, your ego, you have to leave that behind for growth financially as well as spiritually?
Absolutely. I learn things from people every day. Like I learned to stop working for free from someone who was literally panhandling. And best lesson ever.
Wow. Ain't that something? So the concept of leaving your ego behind not just results in muscle growth, better social connections, but more money and saving money. It's almost like that's a principle of life if you believe in crazy stuff like that. Mr. Maceo, say hello to
Hello, good evening. How y'all doing this evening?
Great.
Tell them
How
who
are
you
you?
are, what brought you up here.
I'm sorry?
Tell them who you are and what brought you.
Oh, my name is Tony Maceo. I have a YouTube channel, a little fledgling YouTube channel,
Called
uh,
Genosha.
Genosha TV, and I have another YouTube channel, Power and Strategy TV. And I was up here. Well, I came up here tonight because there was some information that was going to be disseminated. Anytime attorneys are present, anytime anyone's talking or discussing any issues related to the law, that's my forte, or that's my area that I dwell in. I haven't mastered it, but I'm studying it and I'm constantly working in it. So I come in to see what I can learn tonight and hopefully contribute something and have a fruitful discussion to with all the people here tonight. I think I remember you before, Miss Ashley. I think I may have been on a panel with you before, if I recall. So,
I think it was my first one.
okay. So I'm here tonight to learn and see what I can contribute, or I may not can contribute anything. I may benefit just listening, but in any event, I'm here to take part in this discussion because I think it'll be a very, very productive live tonight. So I thank you guys for having me, and thank Mr. Wateef. I would like to thank Mr. Wateef for sending me a link so that I can participate here tonight with the rest of the people. And I'm gonna try to watch my mouth. Uh, and I'm going to try to be a little bit more tame here than I am elsewhere. So thank you for having me on tonight.
Well, at the very least, I know you'll be able to pose a few questions that we won't be able to, that we may not come up with because you're a critical thinker. So let's say hello to
I've heard so. That's
I've
what
heard
they tell me. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'll just say hello to Rainy Woman and saying hello to Kayla Miles. Those two are powerhouse. We'll have to definitely have them back as well. Let's do this, Ashley. Let's go back for a minute. You told me, and I'm not going to go in a specific order. I hope that people can take something away from this as they find it. You talked to us about C corporation, S corporation, how certain things may have changed to make one more lucrative than the other. Can you give us a quick layman's rundown on what an S corp is, what a C corp is, and how we might differentiate between which one is better for our individual situations that you're not giving this advice on?
Definitely not giving advice, not legal advice anyway. So S corps and C corps are we have corporations, and then S just stands for subtype S. Subchapter S corporation. It's basically a pass-through entity. So the corporation's not, for tax purposes, not really there. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of a simple term.
Would it be like a C Corp is the name of your team, even though the team members are not, in fact, dragons? Like calling your team the Dragons, but you aren't made up of dragons. That's just how you identify as a collective?
Not necessarily. So a C Corp.
For a few seconds.
So okay. So let's do it this way. A corporation is a person in America. A corporation is a person. It has a social security number. It can do pretty much everything but vote, almost. So how people are taxed, corporations are taxed. How they're taxed depends on whether they are a C Corp or an S Corp. If they are an S Corp, the corporation itself is not taxed, but the owners of the corporation are taxed on their personal returns. So it just money flows through the corporation to the individual's tax return. Is that simple enough? I can't see the comments, so tell me if it needs.
Here's the thing. There are certain things past which we can't make them simpler. And so we try to be that farmer that plants enough fruit low enough to the ground so the smaller animals can get to it, but we can't go so low that the snakes eat it up anyway. So there may be some work involved. To the people watching this, you may have to actually take a pencil, write some of this stuff down, and let this be the seed. Ashley, I don't want you to feel obligated to take it down past the level at which you feel comfortable making it simple. That's it.
Okay, let me see if I understand you correctly, Miss Ashley. Are you saying that on an S Corp, you only have to pay taxes one time, and that's as the owner of the corporation? Correct. But on a C Corporation, you pay both corporate taxes and your taxes as the owner, right?
If you get income.
Okay, so it would seem to me.
Sorry, y'all, my dog. Someone's coming in.
It would seem to me that the advantage of the S Corp is that you would only be taxed one time. If there's income? If there's income, you wouldn't suffer double taxation by having an S Corp. So it sounds like an S Corp would be preferable over a C Corp. Am I guessing correctly?
With that analysis, yes, but you have to take it. You have to take it further because income.
For people who don't know, before we went live, the dog was sitting next to her and it had her camera crooked. And so I asked her to move the dog, and now the dog has legitimate beef with me. So blame me, not Ashley.
So in 2017, the new tax plan that came through changed the tax rates. So corporate tax rates are capped at 20, I think it's 20 or 21%. So with a C Corp, you just pay a flat 20%. With an S Corp, you are taxed based on your personal income tax bracket. So if you are in the 22 to 25 and above tax bracket and you have an S Corp, you are paying more taxes as an S Corp than you are if you were a C Corp. Also, another thing that changed was several of the allowed expenses for corporations are no longer available to S Corps. They're only available to C Corps. One of the biggest ones, the amount you can deduct for entertainment expenses. So taking clients to dinner, travel, things like gifts to clients, things like that. You can't deduct as many with an S Corp as you could with the C Corp. Another difference is if you are a service corporation, so attorneys, CPAs, you basically, if you don't sell any goods, the tax rate is, it's some of the deductions and things that you would have qualified for are now only apply to C Corps. So that's something, go ahead.
the deductions and well, actually, I was in an interesting situation when I had a financial practice in Las Vegas because we would often get clients that would fly in to see us, and I would do a presentation for them about a financial device that we were working on, and we could take them out to dinner, but we had to be very careful when we reported where we went for dinner or even a snack, because in Las Vegas, a lot of places have things other than just food. For example, there were situations in which, any place that had gambling, we may not be able to take a client, even if they just had a slot machine. A conversation that they had with everyone during your off-the-record training, your first week, they said, listen, we know some of your clients are going to come to Las Vegas and they're going to want to see some version of nude people. That's fine. But don't ever put that on the company on your taxes. That comes out of your pocket. And we can never speak of it again. And they said, somebody had to raise their hand and they said, that wasn't a question. That was a comment.
So I don't practice in Nevada. I actually don't practice in any entertainment districts. So it's safe to say, if you don't live in an entertainment district, California, Nevada, New York, New Jersey, Florida, you probably won't have that issue. You're going to go to a restaurant, it's going to show up on your credit card as a restaurant. Very few places, especially if you have a major credit card, Chase, Citi, Discover, Amex, they're all going to classify correctly. But to be safe, keep your receipt. I think I have a card with all of them, and they all have the little app where you can scan it in and attach it to the transaction if you don't want to keep up with the paper. But yeah, only if you live in those entertainment areas will you really have to worry about that, on how you're classifying what you purchased at as far as entertainment. And because now it's separate, there's entertainment and there's meals, which are calculated differently.
So when we talk about deduction, in a general sense, we're talking about deductions. From what I understand, please correct me if I'm wrong. I'd rather say more things that are wrong to get to better answers than be slightly right in anything that I say to you. Deductions are the things you reduced from your taxes that you may need during the course of your business. For example, as an editor, writer, proofreader, I run a MacBook Pro. It's legitimate for me to deduct that. But yes, something I cannot deduct now because it's not necessary for my job. In the past, I could deduct the cost of cleaning and pressing my business suits. But how do we decide what percentage something is for business? Or, for example, if I have a Metro card, I take the Metro to visit a client, but I also take it to go meet my buddies downtown for pizza. But the Metro card is just one card that, let's say, I spend $100 a month on. Now, do I have to parse things like that out, would you suggest? Or would you err on the side of caution and say, don't do it if you're not 100% sure?
It depends on how comfortable you are with risk. I am not risk averse. I've been audited 3 times. It's like, at this point, I'm ready. So I'll push it to the max. Your business suit, is that your uniform? Again, this is not legal advice. This is what Ashley would do. Ashley, the person, not Ashley, the attorney. Is that business suit your uniform? Is that what you're wearing every day? Then it's highly likely I would put that down as a business expense, uniforms, classifying it as uniforms. That Metro card. Now, I'm just, because I've been audited so many times, I would have a separate Metro card for business and a separate Metro card for, personal, just because it's easy. But those of us who have cars, at this point, there's plenty of apps that track mileage. Okay. But you also have the choice of just taking the standard calculation that the IRS does, which I will do a lot of the times, even though I meet my clients at their houses.
For the record, that was my uniform, what you see in that picture.
Mm-hmm.
That was me.
Yeah. So if you're willing, if you're not afraid, there's very little the IRS can do to you other than take your money.
Well,
So if
that's
you
a big
go
other. You just said
there,
other than take your money. Like that's a small thing.
it is such a small thing because they are then also limited at how much they can take.
Yeah, but I'm a one
So,
man band. I run my own business alone. I'm not trying to get robbed on the. Listen, I'd rather get robbed on the street than the tax man coming.
and that circles us all the way back around to what's your business entity. If you're a corporation, they can only take your corporation's money.
Hmm.
They can't take your personal money. Well, let me not speak in absolute. But at the first level, they're not taking your personal money. They are paying the taxes from the corporation's income.
Hmm.
So
Now, I
that
literally, and look, let me back up. Tony, did you have anything you want to jump in there? I didn't want to monopolize the questions.
Yes, I had a question. I wanted to know, is there a difference in taxation between corporations and LLCs? Is there a difference? Is the difference discernible? And if so, what
absolutely.
is it?
The LLC is taxed just like an S corp at the personal tax rate. LLCs flow through the personal return.
I know initially when because I fell in love with the S corp because they said no double taxation.
Hmm.
But when I was speaking with my econ teacher, he was saying that an LLC was the same. And I don't know if it was the word corporation or if it seemed that corporation was more complete, but I didn't see, well, he was saying that it was the same. I didn't see any distinctions between the two. Can you tell me, are there any distinctions between the LLC and the S Corps?
There are very few, especially with the 2017 tax plan. They are essentially the same, except the S corp is an actual corporation. So um, corporate tax deductions apply to the S corp where they don't apply to LLCs. And at this point, I think there's maybe only two. So I've never advised my clients to do LLCs. Um, just because prior to 17 there were a few more benefits that corporations had versus LLCs. And a lot of, I think the second one was lending. When you seek financing for your corporation, you don't necessarily have to provide personal information, whereas with an LLC, you generally do.
Wow. Again, I wish I had known that because uh, my little small business that I have here, my little small club I have here, I had it set up as an LLC as opposed to a corporation, but I found out that the IRS doesn't accept LLCs as taxable entities. You're either a corporation or a partnership.
Hmm.
And so they wanted me to file. They caught me. Well, they didn't really catch me because it was the first year. It was my first year starting out, so I didn't have any. Didn't really make any money. Well, didn't really scratch the really. Didn't make any money the first year out. And
I love that streak of
so
honesty that hit you.
they sent me. We sent in a regular return because we figured that's what we were supposed to do. And they send me back this nice little slip saying, "Please remit us a payment of $1,600." I'm like,
Hmm.
$1,600? $1,600? What do you mean give you $1,600? I didn't make any income. What are you talking about, $1,600? Because they wanted me to file, I think it was a Schedule K form or K1 form. And
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, I'm going to file you. And I think that's a distribution of dividends. I think that's what it was, or something to that effect. And I told them, I said, well, how in the hell am I supposed to distribute dividends when I didn't make a dime? And so he went on to say to me, he was like, look, he said, the only reason you have to file this is because you filed a return. I said, so you mean to tell me the only reason you are hitting me up for $1,600 is because I filed a return to tell you I didn't make any money? He was like, yep, that's it. And
Hmm.
I was like, okay, this is insane.
This is
What do
nightmare
how do
fuel.
how do we fix that? He said, oh, just send in. He had me to send in, fill out fill out the form and send it in. And I filled it out, and they even let me fax it in. I filled it out and I faxed it in because they taxed me as a partnership, not as a corporation. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that the IRS, when it comes to tax purposes, didn't recognize LLCs. And so he says, well, fill this out and send this in, and we'll correct, we'll eliminate the penalty or what have you. And they did it. But again, if I had known that, I wouldn't have never filed as an LLC. As a matter of fact, now I'm trying to figure out how I can change my LLC or convert it from an LLC into a corporation. I don't even know if I can do that, but it was just a thought. So,
well, let's do this then. I'm going to give Ashley a second to think about that question. Is it possible to go from LLC to S Corp or C Corp and back and forth? As we say hello to Sister Alenda. Alenda, tell them who you is and what make you awesome.
I'm still trying to catch up, getting up to speed with the conversation, but I'm a non-practicing lawyer out of South Florida, living in between Brazil and Florida at the moment, and I love talking about taxes. So.
You're creepy, you know that? And that's this one from somebody who is the definition of creepy. When you say, I love talking about taxes, that just makes,
there's no way around it, so you might as well talk about it.
Yeah.
The more you know, the more you can do.
Yeah. Well, hey, some folks might remember you because we had a good conversation called Expat Money with Lawyers and How My Mustache Taught Me Girls. Alinda was there to comfort me when I had a bit of a mustache tragedy one day because it was awkward. I went to a barber who I tried not to be ageist. She was about 21 in this immaculate barber shop. I couldn't get to my normal barber. I knew I had some things I had to do that day with clients. And I went in and I told her, just maintain the lines. And she looked at me. She said, okay, laid me back. Half an hour later, I came out looking like a 90s R&B singer with this little pretty boy line mustache. She was so proud of herself. I couldn't be mad because I probably wasn't describing it well enough, but I was like, that's how I said I can relate to women now when they say, well, this is my hairdresser. And I'm like, why don't you go to another one? They're like, no, you don't understand. So it's like, this is my barber. I go to the same two barbers I've been to in the same shop they run as long as this thing has been growing. But I'm kind of ranting on that one. Alenda is one of the people that I definitely wanted to come to the big house and have part of this conversation. I don't know if you and Ashley had met, but here's what we're doing, Alenda. We're doing a little bit of a roundtable Q&A, and Ashley has already given us that disclaimer, and I gave the disclaimer. We're just speaking of generalities. My job here tonight is to give people a few gems, a few seeds they can plant and say, I need to learn more about this so that we don't walk around blind. She's not giving specific advice, but she's saying here are some general ideas that may help you with the tax man, with your corporations, your S Corps, your C Corps, your LLC, your holding companies, things like that. And I want you in on the game as well. Is that reasonable, Linda?
That's reasonable. Let me know how I can help.
And I take both of your words seriously. Tony Maceo and I, we play the role of the everyman in this conversation. We want to be the stand-up straight men, so to speak. No pun intended, double entendre, to ask the questions that the people in the crowd may be wondering. Ashley, getting it back to the ball in your corner, we were talking about, could you move between S Corp, C Corp, LLC, holding company? Is it possible to move between those things without penalty, or is there a stiff penalty? Is there no penalty at all? Don't say so.
I mean, that is the lawyer answer. Maybe. You can move from an S Corp to a C Corp once every 5 years. As far as an LLC, I'm honestly not sure. I don't deal with them a lot. I honestly ignore them. They don't exist to me. I will say, Maceo, before you make the jump, I want you to realize that running a corporation is more expensive than running an LLC. Let's put my legal hat back on. As a corporation, if you're sued, you must hire an attorney. Whereas with an LLC, you can appear in court on your LLC's behalf. So legal fees will need to be added to your budget. You also must file a return every year, whereas with an LLC, you don't necessarily have to. So that's another expense that you want to look out for. With an S Corp, you can generally file a letter but you must file something for both of those. The penalty, excuse me, for not filing, I want to say is $200 a month for not filing anything for those. So keep that in mind. If you are thinking about switching, make sure that the benefits outweigh those extra costs. For me, I just switched from an S Corp to a C Corp this year, just because I'm in the service industry. So I've been on 13 lunches in the past 2 weeks. So that's quite a bit of money that I'm going to need to write off come October when I decide to file my return.
You know, a lot of the people who are watching here, as I said earlier, a lot of my friends and viewers that I've been really able to. Oh, by the way, if you're watching right now, make sure you click the thumbs up, the bell, and share, because this is how I get to meet other amazing people. You know, this is a tool by which I've been able to make all kinds of friends and bring a lot of information to you guys. So make sure you click subscribe and share this somewhere. I tell everybody, you know, share it on your Facebook or your Twitter or your Instagram. I've been having a lot of success telling people to share it on your Tinder profile. Say, hey, listen, if we both swipe right on each other, the fun part is going to last for about an hour. What are we going to talk about afterwards? Can we have a conversation as deep as the one they have with YusefWateef on his YouTube channel? Give me some clicks that way. I am a guy who I always use the same analogy that, and Tony Maceo will love this analogy. Maybe one generation ago, I would have had my rifle slung over my back as I wandered the earth. Maybe 10 generations ago, I would have had a sword strapped to my back as I wandered the earth. As it is, I strap my laptop computer, a MacBook Pro, to my backpack, wander the earth, righting wrongs, making money, and leaving smiles on people's faces with what I do. In your not specific recommendation, or Linda, I'd like your opinion on this too. For tax purposes, what service could I do for myself? How would you look at someone like me who doesn't have a staff, who simply has a regular business here in Brazil? I have it's called a small business. I have a small business license here. For one guy, I could hire somebody if I want to, but I don't. What would you say to me in non-specific advice that I'm not going to run out and do, because that's not what we do? What would you say to me? Ashley, you want to go? Actually, no, Linda, you want to jump on that one first?
I think what Ashley said was key, is that you always are looking for the cost versus the benefit. And so when you're working as an individual and an independent, you're typically going to look at sometimes there are other options to try and accomplish the goal that you're trying to accomplish, whether it's saving on taxes or whatever, but you have to look at whether or not the cost outweighs the benefit. So for some people, they may want to file, and like you said, you file or you're categorized or registered as is it the MEI, the microempresa? Okay, individual. So you're working as an individual, like it's like a sole proprietor, pretty much in the United States. They're pretty similar. So for you, you have to look at whether or not the cost of filing as an LLC or incorporating yourself is really worth the benefit. And I think for most people, when you are an individual, a lot of times, unless you really are in the service industry, and there's some real significant tax benefits, it's a lot of times not worth it, in my opinion. I think the route that you're taking in Brazil, at least, is probably the best route to take. That's the route I take. That's how I'm set up in Brazil. It's as an MEI. If I were producing something at a large volume, then I'd consider incorporating. If I want to employ someone, and then I have to worry about those types of taxation issues, it might be better to incorporate or limit my liability. But it's a balancing act.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before I even go to that, Ashley, did you have anything you want to add? Any sprinkles on her ice cream, or?
For those of you with American companies, I would look at your family. I would research and consider hiring your spouse and your children as employees. Payroll taxes are a huge deduction. That's That's something that I have been advising clients to do more and more lately. I'm not advising you, but research it. See if that is something that you do. Because I mean, if you have a home office, you're already paying. Hopefully, you're paying yourself for expenses. You're renting your home to your business, hopefully. So that's just another step. Hire your family.
This has been the quietest chat room in all the videos I've done.
I think
nobody wants to talk about taxes.
No, because we talking about taxes. Taxes is only one person getting excited when we talk about taxes. I have
And that's
a question.
Linda.
Yeah, I have a question. Could you maybe elaborate or expand on taxes for nonprofits? What are the rules for taxing of nonprofits? What are the rules for, as far as I know, the deadlines, the usual deadlines, of course, April 15th, but what are some special tax considerations, tax policies or practices or procedures that we need to be cognizant of if you're filing as a nonprofit?
Sending out your receipts on time.
Sending out receipts on time. When you say
Yes.
receipts, please explain what you mean when you say that. You mean the
So
returns?
when you receive donations, making sure you send out those end of the year forms on time. That's probably, I don't do a lot of taxation for charities. I form them, but I'm at the beginning of the process rather than the end for, but something that I've seen quite a bit of people failing to get those end of the year receipts out on time. That will upset your donors. You'll lose a lot of donors that way. Also, basically not paying attention to the regulations to maintain your status. Also remembering lobbying. That's something I've been watching closely with our political climate. Nonprofits getting real close to doing lobbying. So
Really? Lobbying. Well, let me back up. Can you tell people how a nonprofit should function, what lobbying is, and why they should not be friends?
Nonprofits should not be in the political arena at all. I wish I could quote the code, but I can't. When you are applying to be a nonprofit, you're essentially saying, no, I won't do these. I think it's a list of 16 things, and lobbying is up at the top. What was the rest of that question?
But Ashley, if I have a nonprofit, let's just say saving puppies all day, why can't I be a lobbyist? Why can't I lobby for tougher laws on dog abusers? Why is that a bad idea?
Because the IRS says so. That's my answer, and I would like to stay there. But no, seriously.
Dad said so. That's it. The IRS said it, so it doesn't have to make sense.
Pretty much.
Huh. Well, I'm going to give you to some of the things that I've heard traveling, as this wandering business guy. I'm going to tell you two things I've heard that have kind of alarmed me. One of them was, I don't make very much money at all traveling. I live in Bangkok, Thailand, Singapore, India, Brazil, depending on how you do it. Places where you earn an income, but when you do the calculation, you're earning poverty level compared to America. Not even $30,000 a year. I don't have to file my taxes because I don't owe the government any money. How do you feel about that, Linda? Who's also not giving specific legal advice.
I would say that's incorrect. It's incorrect. You should be filing your taxes, even if you don't earn anything. You file to say you haven't earned anything. And especially when you're out of the country, to save yourself the trouble, I'd still go through filing and let them know exactly what you have or don't have. More importantly, what you don't have.
Like, look at me, still poor, like that.
Yeah. Still here, still poor.
Well, how about thinking actually? What can we say to people who haven't? Should they be running in terror, or is there a mechanism through which you can call or probably write the IRS and say, "Listen, I was a naughty child in the past. I didn't file because I didn't have the money because I'm working in Bangladesh or I'm working in, Pakistan, and I'm not making a lot of money." How do they rectify that? Because that's another thing. A lot of times, what you said earlier about letting go of your ego, a lot of people think that once they've done something wrong or identified that they've done something wrong tax-wise that they shouldn't have done or classified something the wrong way, human nature tells us to hide, be ashamed of what you've done, and don't talk about it. Instead of raising your hand and saying, "Listen, I made a mistake. I'm going to fall on my sword here, and I want you to tell me how bad is this going to be." What do you say to people who've done that in the past or he didn't file? How do they fix that? How do they rectify that?
The first thing I tell them to do is look up the statute of limitations first. It's 7 years, but when it starts varies. So that's step number one. Find out if the statute is about to run. And you'll know because the IRS will send you a letter. I have had them wait until, a week before the statute's about to run for them to send me a letter. And at that point, it's kind of like, oh, I didn't get it. But start there, find out when the statute's about to run, and then make the determination. Okay, statute's 7 years. I'm in year 6. I would probably wait that one out. But, if you're in year 2 and you can afford something, then, call them. If you didn't make much, file and see what they say. Because, closed mouths don't get fed. So if you file and then call them and tell them, hey, can you waive these penalties? I only made, $50 over there's a minimum that, to file, like $6,000 or something. I only made $50 over this. Why should I pay $92 a month in penalties on, something that you were going to charge me $2 in taxes on? There, as much as I talk about the IRS, most of the agents are reasonable. So do that. At the same time, if this is a business, they're not letting you go 2 and 3 years. So yeah, cut that out. They have contacted you. Now, personal returns, yeah, those fall through the cracks all the time. But a business return, it's coming.
So they just go to irs.com and look for the form, or
irs.gov. Another thing that you could do, most of the law schools in the country have tax clinics. You can call and see if they'll take your case, and they take the cases for free.
Because it's training for them.
Exactly.
Wow, people, if you got nothing else from this tonight, that right there was worth the price of admission. Yeah,
it was. I heard free. You got my attention when I heard free.
I avoid the word free generally.
Free. Yeah, to me, free is a bad word.
Another word. Tony, do you have anything you want to add on that? Any way you want to mix it up for Linda? Let's see if we can figure these questions to monkey wrenching.
Well, I guess my question is if you have an LLC or a nonprofit, are the deadlines? And again, I'm experimenting because I'm totally new here when it comes to the nonprofit arena. Are the deadlines any different than the regular deadlines for regular ordinary citizens or individuals? Is April 15th your deadline forever and ever? Amen.
So the corporation deadline is March 15th for on-time returns, and September 15th for if you file for an extension. So yeah, there's various dates throughout the year. As far as nonprofit, I don't know the nonprofit dates. I'm usually at the beginning, not the end.
We just got an interesting question in the comments. I'm going to put it on the board here. John Nothing said, what if I help 3 people make 6 figures, meaning he helps 3 people earn $100,000 or more, and they decide to loan him $50,000 to live off of? Do I still pay taxes? Now, the key word here being loan, and is that each person loaning you 50, meaning he's got 150, or they all pitched in and loaned him 50 together? How do we read that question?
It's not income. As long as it's documented correctly, it's not income. Now, from a legal perspective,
Not to give legal advice, but go ahead.
Yeah, we're not, but there will be lots of documentation going on. But yeah, it's not income, because none of those companies are going to issue, 1099s for that loan.
But see, here's where I get sticky with it, because going back to my career when I was a financial professional, he said, I helped 3 people make 6 figures. That means he did something professionally to put money into these people's pockets. I would often have to go through all kinds of extra training. We would have to do extended education on lots of things. And one of the biggest issues that we had to worry about as financial professionals is, where did this money come from? KYC, know your client. And one of the most terrifying prospects was someone who comes to you and says, I got this money for something I did. Cool. Let's look at the paperwork for where you got it so I can put it into a mutual fund or a cash-bearing life insurance policy for you. Well, the money didn't come from what I did from them with a gift, but they gave you a gift even though you did something for them and you don't have any paperwork behind it. Ooh, I think I'm going to have to slowly back out of the room. He helped 3 people make money, but then they loaned him money to live on. That feels sketchy. Alenda, your face kind of did a little dance for a minute. What were you thinking?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. There was a question, but there was a lot of underlying issues in the question. Why even mention that you helped these people earn anything? If it has nothing to do with the loan. If it does have something to do with the loan, then was it really a loan? And then is there like you said, documentation that you'll be repaying the loan? Are the terms reasonable? Like, is it really a loan? And that's what the IRS looks at.
Yeah, you can't loan somebody money and then say
you'll be paying taxes on what you're earning to pay it back. So either way, you're going to pay taxes.
I didn't think you're
going on the loan, but
you're going to pay taxes on the money you earn to pay back the $50,000. And so once again,
assuming you're earning the money, unless you're getting money from somewhere else, you know.
And that's the tricky part. That somewhere, I had more than one client. I had a client come to me who was a referral from another client. It was his uncle who came from another city. And he said, hey, my nephew said you did some good work for him. I said, well, thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere. Come by my office. We sat down and I'm showing him the beautiful office and we sit down and I say, what can I do for you? And he says, well, I've got a chunk of money I saved from a cell phone business that I had in another city. I'm being intentionally obtuse and vague. Said, I want to just put this money away in a chunk somewhere. Read it to my ears. Let's take your age into account, where you're going, what you already have saved. And okay, so where'd the money come from? Well, it came from my business. I said, okay, well, where else? And he said, that was all. And I had to put my pen down. I had to do one of those like dramatic pauses where I wiped my nose and I said, okay, so you mean to tell me all this money came from a few years of you selling cell phones at a shop that you own? Yes. I said, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. I said, now listen, if you can't talk to me about it, you haven't told me anything weird, I can just say, hey, we had a meeting and no business came of it, but you can't put me in a situation to accept these funds knowing full well it doesn't pass the smell test. Because you might get in trouble and go to jail for a year or two. I might lose my license and screw my life up. I'm not doing that. So that's how when I read things like this, it's like you help them make money, but then they loan you money, but then you got to pay that money back, and the loan has to be reasonable, meaning they can't say give me $1 a year for 100 years, even though in 100 years the loan wouldn't have been paid back, and they will be taking a loss on that money. Am I wrong here, team?
And I'm asked to draft those documents every day.
Really? What do you mean you're asked to draft those documents?
The contracts for that, but the joy that I have, I don't have to ask where the money came from. That
Really?
does not concern me.
Some dude just selling ice cream out the back of a truck, $275,000 in his pocket.
Does not concern me. What do you want the terms of this document to be? Who is party A and who is party B? What bank should they make the deposit into? When does this end? Here is my engagement letter that specifically says you have hired me to draft a contract. My fee is $10,000.
And see,
do you agree to this?
Then they figured I got past Ashley. That's when they come, they take their happy ass to my office and wonder why I said no.
and not my concern, because my engagement letter, which is essentially my contract, the contract between me and the client, it specifically says you hired me to do this. Number one, there is no 2 or 3. Once number 1 is completed, we're done. Call me and we can set up another one. But I'm not asking questions that I don't need the answers to perform the work that you hired me for.
So, Tony, did we answer the question?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. I think there's still there's still some lingering questions. I mean, as far as, she was talking about the receipts. I think that was interesting because most of our revenue actually doesn't come from donations. I think the donations we've gotten, I think it's been really small in terms of from the public. It's been a couple $100 here. Most of our money has been made from actual work as opposed to donations. So it was interesting to hear that piece of the puzzle and how that fit into, as far as how that fits into filing taxes, as how that fits into what goes on that return, what goes on that piece of paper in March. Because again, it was an eye-opening experience getting that letter from them saying give us $1,600. Just because you filed a return saying you don't have any money, you still have to file a K1 showing you don't have any money. So I think the time period, that answered my question, because I actually thought I had until April 15th. You guys probably saved my hide tonight as far as that was concerned. So yeah, I think you've answered my questions. I think you've answered.
We are here doing good work for people. Hey, by the way, John, if you want to give us more details to help us answer that question. How you doing, BK? But yeah, that was just one of those odd situations. And I was always taught, not just by the professional people who did the internal auditing for our clients and for our business, I was just taught by my mentors in the business. They're like, if it smells weird, run. Better to lose out on that commission that you are all. Everybody, and listen, I don't care who you are, everybody in the financial business, we're always thinking about that commission. But you can't think about that commission in lieu of, am I doing ethical business? Because I've seen twice in an almost 10-year career, I saw 2 men get escorted out of the office for doing something unethical.
Well, that is especially true in my line of work, or in my former line of work, because, I deal with people that are not always on the right side of the law, and they come up with these unconventional methods to solve problems, and it causes more problems than it solves.
Can you give us a story without names?
Oh, wow, you asked me too fast. I got a bunch of them.
You got too many.
I have a bunch of them.
While he's thinking, I just want to interject. If you are a criminal and you are a profitable criminal, your best investment is an attorney. Go ahead and put down a retainer and get one, get a relationship with me. You can't hire me because I don't do criminal law.
See, you
But if
stop.
you,
You see, stop that because that's too logical for them. They're not gonna do that. They're
I'm
not gonna
just
do
saying,
that. They're
if you
not gonna do
know
that.
you're a
They're not
criminal,
gonna do that. They're not gonna do that. That's too much. That's too easy. So they have to
They'd
do
rather
things.
invest in a
I
new
don't know.
gun. or a
I,
new
I think you'd be
pistol.
surprised. You'd be
They,
surprised that, I mean, like maybe it depends on the level of criminality, but
right?
but
Because I
criminals have
swear the
an
mafia
attorney on the
has
payroll.
attorneys. The mob has attorneys.
Yeah.
well,
So I
the
need
mafia has
Pookie and
attorneys
them.
because the mobs usually facing life. Okay, so yeah, but these guys don't think they're never going to jail. They'll never get caught. No, no, they're going to sell dope forever. They will never get caught. No, they can actually drive down the street with a suspended license, with pounds of shit in the trunk, at 3 in the morning with the radio turned up, where they're the only one on the interstate with the police sitting there in the speed trap.
Yeah.
Out there in a car with a tag with an out-of-state license plate. And then roll down a window vehicle that's darkly tinted past the legal tint amount. I might add.
I
Uh,
also feel so bad for Tony because
Brilliant, complicated master plans that are undone by the fact that they don't have a valid damn driver's license. Walking around, and since we talking about tax money, walking around with $10,000 in cash on their persons and a $20 bag of weed. The $10,000
stop,
gets
stop.
forfeited for $20,000 worth of weed, and then they come to me and try to figure out how they can get the $20,000 back. Then they want to cut a deal with me to get out for a third of the damn bond. Then on top of that, they want to
Listen, for
give
the
me a
people who don't
Corvette.
know,
They
Tony
want to give
has
me a
been hard.
Corvette that's not in their name as collateral. The Corvette is in their baby mama's uncle's name, as though I'm supposed to accept that for collateral, and then fill in his name on the damn automobile title because he ain't present,
Listen.
with no notary,
Tony has
so
been
forth
hurt
and so on.
real bad as a bail
So
bond. People just lying to him all the time.
so when you tell me about profitable criminals, that is an oxymoron like respectable prostitute. So you will have to excuse me if I don't have any great faith in profitable criminals. Now you talk about
I
the
will
mafia.
disagree about the respectable prostitutes. Have several of them as clients. They pay on time. They pay their taxes.
Well, see, I have never known. Well, see, we I guess it is a matter of class because the hoes that I know can't pay their rent on time, much less their taxes. So that would be a thing that, see, you would have to show that to me. But the thing is that when you're dealing with
Look,
these
I'm not
people,
gonna have y'all up here comparing prostitution roll call lists.
the thing is that when you're dealing with the people on the street, it's like when you're taxes, things of that sort have to be, it has to be 100% legitimate. Everything has to be as it is, or should at least appear to be as it is.
Ashley, got a question. Do prostitutes collect receipts? How do they pay taxes?
So they estimate, pretty much
estimate?
tip like waiters and waitresses paying taxes on their tips. So we do it that way.
I mean, what is she paying? What a tea bag? I mean, I'm sorry.
So if they are my client, then they actually have an entity, and I have converted most of them to corporations.
I'm sorry, ma'am, but what do those receipts look like? I mean, I'm just curious. What's on those documents? What they turn in the receipts for? What are the services that are listed on those receipts? I'd like to know.
Massage therapists, right, Ashley? They put massage therapists.
I didn't hear you.
I bet you they put massage therapists, right?
No, companion services, stripping is legal. I think time. They basically bill hourly for their time. And again, I don't ask questions that I don't need the answers to.
Companionship services.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's what it is. Do they get deductions for laundering their thongs? I mean,
Tony,
I'm just asking the questions the people want to know.
no,
Somebody
Do they
has
get
been
deductions?
hurt.
home. All right, team, we got a better question. All right, Linda, can you read that for us?
Oh goodness. I was referring. Oh, this is John who's clarifying the previous question. He was referring to a group operating an LLC indirectly giving 50K through resources, living rent free, and all fees and expenses are through the LLC. If that makes sense. No, that does not. That sounds.
Go on, say it. Go on,
For
say it.
a reason.
It sounds janky. Say it. It sounds janky.
It sounds like it's a strategically. Let's see what we have. So there, this is you said a group opera. So you said 3 people that you've helped make.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna go back to the original so we can compare. Okay, this is the original statement. What if I help 3 people make 6 figures and they decide to loan me 50K to live off of? Do I still pay taxes? Now you did use the word loan, and that's important. Okay, so now we go down. I was referring more like group operating an LLC and indirectly giving. Now here you said indirectly. You didn't use the word loan. You said indirectly giving through resources, living rent-free, and all fees, expenses through the LLC, if that makes sense. There was a critical change. The first time you said, now you're saying indirectly giving, as well as some additional information.
Right.
I'm confused. Is he indirectly giving a loan? How can you indirectly give somebody a loan? I'm confused. I'm lost here. What?
Ashley, what do you read from these tea leaves?
Well, those 2 words right there, indirectly giving, it's a big red flag. Either you're giving or you're not. Either it's direct or it's underhanded. And that's what that sounds
This
like.
sounds like one of my clients.
Ashley?
Sorry.
Oh, it looks like it's okay. If you got to go for, I mean, it looks like you're busy. Your screen froze, so I'm guessing you're doing something else. It feels as if, and what I'm going to say is a statement. It's not a question. So I don't want an answer to this, John. It feels as if you're searching for the right way to do a wrong thing. Don't answer that. Don't reply to that. Don't put yourself in an awkward situation. It feels like you're looking for a right way to do a wrong thing or a loophole that will allow you the right way to do a wrong thing. Ashley, are you... let me back up. Ashley, did you catch what I said?
Not.
What I said is it feels as if John is looking for a right way to do a wrong thing or a loophole that will allow him to do a wrong thing. And I specifically said, don't comment on what I'm saying in the comment because I don't want to be in a situation where he's saying something that could get him, because I'm not attacking you, John. I'm not attacking you. What I'm saying is that I'm getting the impression that there's something you're not telling us, probably for good reason, but I'm also getting the impression that the facts you're giving us consistently don't add up.
Well, this is I'm sorry, no disrespect, but I'm used to this kind of thing. When I work with clients and they come in explaining their story and alibis, they come in explaining in alibis. When they tell you the story, they're telling you all the defenses to the possible accusations against them, or the possible complaints or things that they can be caught up in. They come in and explaining in the form of defenses. They come in they're explaining their way around the crime, if that makes any sense. They come in explaining all the ways where they can't get busted, all the ways where they can't get indicted. And they're trying to figure out if that explanation makes sense or if it's workable. Because what I've noticed that what a lot of people like to do, insurance salesmen and insurance agents are notorious for this, and that's dwelling in that gray area. People love to dwell and play in that gray area. Well, it's not exactly right, and it's not exactly wrong either. So just tell me, how far can I Negro rig this little scheme or this little scheme or master plan that I have? Just how far can I run it before, you know, the whistle gets blown and somebody starts, you know, before I get on someone's radar, before I get investigated. So this is kind of what it sounds like. It's kind of what it feels like when my clients come in and they start explaining all the ways that they can't be convicted of some shit that they actually doing. So, you know.
But you know what? Look at what just happened. Tony, he said, sorry, I'm not informed about this stuff. I'm 23, never paid taxes other than what's at the register. So what we may have misinterpreted for subterfuge may simply be he's a young man still learning. And I applaud him for putting it out there and asking these questions. I hope that at 23, you're still in a situation in life early enough where you can do all the right things.
That was a little in depth though. Why? That was a little in depth. He made some money for some people, and instead of getting a salary, he getting a loan. Why? That was a little too. No, that was a little too.
So I feel like he is
here.
the victim in this situation. I feel like he's asking this question because they have presented that as a plan to him, and he's trying to figure out if that is an appropriate plan, whereas all of us are saying, no, that's not appropriate. And if you are still in the place where you can negotiate that contract, now is a good time to go negotiate that contract.
I'm giving this young man the benefit of the doubt. As someone twice his age, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. I'd like to believe he may be on a path and he's trying to find out if it's legitimate or not. I want to believe that he may have a situation that he could get into but hasn't yet. And if you are on that path, why are you whispering?
I'm trying to get my charger. I'm sorry.
In any case, like I said, I'd like to believe that if you are in this situation, John, and again, what I'm saying right now is a comment, not a question. Don't say anything that might get yourself in trouble. If you are in a situation where it at all doesn't feel right, no amount of money in the world, no promises, and no prepackaged excuses,
don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Just simple as that. Don't do it. It sounds wrong. Don't do it. And for a CYA tonight on this podcast, I did not give out any information related to any criminal activity proposed by the question presented here tonight. We're not qualified. We're not attorneys. Well, I'm not an attorney, so I'm not qualified to give legal advice. I'm definitely not qualified to give tax advice. So I would say you should consult your local attorney or your local accountant in your community, in your state, or in your neighborhood to determine whether or not this is legal, plausible, or feasible strategy for you to generate some type of income. So I'll say that. But
that's fair.
This feels kind of grimy, dog. I can't lie. Feels kind of grimy.
Let's move forward to another point of contention by Marvin Battle Jr., who said, if you go exempt for a few months, how do you avoid getting in trouble with the IRS the following year? Now, does that mean, Marvin, you're doing something that falls under a tax exempt status, but you're not doing it all year? If I read that correctly, if I'm reading that particular situation correctly, Alenda, how does that read to you?
I'm not sure. I'd need him to clarify.
Okay.
Exempt can mean a lot of things.
So we'll say, please clarify. And we'll come back to it if we can get there before we log off. And I gotta say, speaking of what people do for money, I tell everybody this all the time. I'm not a YouTuber, although if they decide to give me money, I'm happy with that. I always share with people what I do as an editor, copy editor, proofreader. I'm the kind of person you call if you have a university paper or a book that needs to be done in correct English. I write resumes. I do ghostwriting for websites. Anything that has to do with the English language done at the correct university level, I'm your man. And when you go to catch me on LinkedIn.com, because my name really is YusefWateef, I'm the same person everywhere. I want everybody to scroll down past my resume. You can look at that later. What I'd like for you to do is to go back, and I want to, let's see, go all the way down to recommendations. I want you to look at what other business professionals have said about me, my level of professionalism, and the quality of service that I bring, because this is how I earn my clients. If I can do something for you, let me know. If I can't, share it with somebody else, and feel free to join me there as well. Alenda looks like you're, if the family's getting a little angry because, you know, I'm monopolizing your time for the evening, Alenda?
Well, it's bedtime, and they need to go to bed.
You got to put them down with force and malice. You have to, like, pull them down with a leather bit in their mouth like a werewolf changing. Like, the power of sleep compels you, and they're like, no, I'm tired.
Pretty much, they're doing backflips. And
Oh, I'm so glad I don't have any children. You make it sound so
that's the joy of life.
Yeah.
I disagree.
Wait, Ashley got a couple kids, though. So let's do this as we bring it home with a few other things. Oh, hold on. Wait, Marvin said, okay, let's back up. He said he went exempt for a few months. How do I avoid getting in trouble with IRS? And he said, I changed my withholdings so no taxes were coming out. That sounds awkward. I changed my wholdings. You didn't say my situation changed. You just said I changed my holdings. Did you just unilaterally decide you're going to change the way things look?
Well, if he has a withholding, that means he's an employee, which means he changed, I'm guessing, his W-4 so that the taxes aren't being withheld. It's still not clear.
Who's watching soap operas in the background?
I don't know.
It's
Not me.
It's not a soap opera. It's
Mute yourself until you have something to say. Watching soap operas while we're talking.
Well, I don't know. You know, I've been in this situation before, and my nigga senses are tingling. So I'll leave this question to the ladies. Y'all figure out what's going on here. I'm gonna sit back and enjoy the show, because this don't sound quite right. So y'all do y'all thing, and you know, try to help this man out. Don't get yourself indicted. Don't get yourself indicted.
And again, folks,
Don't get yourself indicted. I'm trying to help this man out.
I'm going to bring Tony Maceo back, because you got to remember we are a product of our environment. Mr. Maceo has been permanently scarred by dealing with some underbelly people in his quest to keep people out of jail. They just abused his trust to the point where his heart has turned to stone. Ashley, Alenda, when he said I changed my withholding so no taxes, is that how you read it, that he just changed what his situation was so that he didn't get taxed on it? Is that that simple?
That's what it seems like. It's hard to understand, but I know that some people, if they need more income at a specific point in the year, they will change their withholding so that they're receiving their full paycheck, but you're still going to pay taxes based on your earned income. And maybe you're paying it, maybe you have to make a payment as opposed to having your taxes withheld. But I'm not sure what he means by changing to exempt. You can't change yourself as an employee to being tax exempt. That I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Yeah, I've put 34 down on my W-4 and they still withhold taxes. So I am all for give me my money and I'll give you yours when it's due. But I have yet to figure out how to get them to not withhold anything as an employee.
BK from the Rocky said, sounds like someone changed from a W-2 into a 1099. The IRS is going to get money at some point, so prepare for that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Whoo! Hey, Snuggles. It's dangerous. What I'm getting from a lot of the conversation we're having on this tax, and I want you to tell me if I'm oversimplifying things. Step one, pay your taxes on time, whether or not you owe. register, find out. Because whether or not you pay may be able to be negotiated, but whether or not you file, well, that's a non-negotiable. Is that a fair statement?
Correct.
Okay. What I'm also getting is don't say or do anything that you don't know to be 100% legal. If you have to ask a question about it, get a licensed professional to write down, yes, you can do this, or no, you can't. But don't guess.
When it comes to the IRS, absolutely.
There's a little problem with that, see, because if
Oh,
he says yes, you can't do it, you see you gave him an answer he didn't want to hear. See, you got to understand, he don't want a yes or a no. He want a can I get away with it? You see what I'm saying? It's not a yes, you could do a no. It's will I get caught? Is
well,
it vague enough so that I don't get caught?
I'm going to share a story.
Is it in the gray area enough so that if I get attention drawn to me, can I slip through the cracks because it's in a gray area? See, that's the real question. That's what they want to know. You understand? They want, again, is it gray enough for them to leave me alone if I get caught?
And here's the yeah, I understand. It's just one of those. I'm going to give you a story of a client that I had that worked for the IRS, and he carried a 12-gauge shotgun and a 9mm pistol. He was not a regular IRS guy that sat behind a desk. He was the man that would come to your business with his team, and if they thought that something shady was going on, like, for example, you were a money laundering company or there was something weird going on, he often talked about how restaurants are actually great for laundering money. And he told me this. He says, Wateef, I want you to remember one important thing. He said, if you cheat the IRS, you'll probably get away with it. Which is why when we do catch that percentage of people that we catch, we ruin your life, your wife, your children, your neighbors will abandon you. We are going to publicly crucify you. And we start, one day we kick in your door with a 12-gauge shotgun and say, step away from the computer, and we will shoot you. I was like, is it that serious? He said, oh, yes.
I've seen that. I've actually seen that. I've seen them come. And I remember one day I was in undergrad and they were coming for this restaurant in, I think it was Hampton, Virginia, called the Jewish Mother. It was a big case about it. And there was he had some tax problems, and they came that day. It was BATF came that day, and they red taped not yellow tape, red taped everything. Everybody get out. Everybody.
I don't know what these tapes mean.
Red tape means it's confiscated. That's what it means. They're in control now. This belongs to them. Yellow tape usually means somebody got shot. Red tape means repossession. It means it's ours now. So when they come and they red tape it off and it says property of the Internal Revenue Service, they come in there and they red tape. I mean, they came in there and they put a tape around the damn pantry that had the cakes in it. They put a tape around the cash register. They put a tape around the silverware. They put a tape around the plates, the forks, the spoons, everything. The Jewish Mother, yep, that's it. They came in there it was back during, I think it was 1990, 2000, something like that. They had an infamous tax case where the IRS just rolled up in there and red taped everything off. And they put everybody out. Everybody got to go. Get out. Get out. They weren't asking no questions. They had their guns cocked. They were locked and loaded. Get out. So when they come, they're not playing. It's no joke. So again, when they catch you, they do go over. It's not just overboard. It's overkill. It's overkill.
Were there immigration issues in that case too?
It may have been. I'm not sure. I just know it was just really, really vicious. It was just really, really vicious because when they rolled through, again, I had never seen anything like that. I thought I was in a drug bust, because I've been in places that have gotten raided before. Don't ask me why, but I've just been there. And usually, they come through and they usually, let the people out or whatever. But they came through that day. everybody had to get in line to get out the building. They had to line up to get out of the building. Now, I don't know what the subsequent outcome of that case was, but it went on for at least a couple of years. Whatever the tax issues were he had with them, it went on for a couple of years before he cleared it up, if he cleared it up. But again, I'm a witness to that. You know, when they come, it's not just over. It's not. They don't just catch you for what's overdue. It's overkill. You know, it's overkill. So.
Well, BK said everyone always gets caught, just not immediately, but some point, someone always gets caught, period. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's how you gotta understand. A lot of times we get over by urban folklore, you know, urban folklore, urban legend, you know, stuff like that. They know somebody who didn't pay taxes for half a century, you know, and they got away and something like that, and, you know, but all of a sudden they just wind up missing and they're doing a life bid in the penitentiary for some unrelated offense. That's the moral of the story. They always get caught, but they don't think of it that way. They don't think of it that way until they're confronted with the consequences. They don't think of it that way until it's like they're in front of the judge or they're in front of whatever administrative or tribunal body that they have to face, and it's like they're dropping the hammer on them. I mean, it's merciless because they're looking at how long you've been getting away with this. They're looking at, it's like when my mother would used to say, well, I may not discipline you right now, but when I discipline you, I'm gonna get you for old and new. And so when she gets you, that is an extra long that's an extra long butt whooping, because she catching you for everything you did from 2 to 3 weeks ago up until what you did recently. So the courtroom, the judges function like that. They look at how long you've been getting away with this. So when they stroke you, and they don't have any mercy.
So let me say this again. If you are a profitable criminal, I highly suggest that you go ahead and retain counsel. If you are a criminal at all, profitable or not,
you gotta temper that, Ashley, because all of them think they're profitable.
Then they need an attorney. I'm an advocate for all of my fellow attorneys. You need an attorney. You need one. Go ahead and put your retainer down. There is a such thing as putting your retainer down for services that you may need later.
No, because see, in their mind, that's money that they could be spending elsewhere. You see, so if they put money down right now on an attorney, that's money that they can't buy for some frivolous shit, you know, stuff that depreciates soon as you take it out the store. So, you know, from their perspective, everybody's beating them. From their perspective, everybody's trying to get that little $1,200 that they made 2 hours ago. So they're trying to figure out a way to save that little 12. I mean, you're talking to. Here's what they'll do. They'll have $10,000, right? And they'll get the genius idea to go get a bank account. So they know they can't get a bank account because they can't show any income. So they go get some girl that, you know, they're laying up under. And they'll say, okay, I'm going to put $10,000 in, but I'm not going to put $10,000 all at one time. I'm going to tip off the IRS if I put it in here $10,000 at one time. So I'm going to put $9,000 in here today. Withdraw 1,500 of it tomorrow, and then come back and put the other 1,000 in the next 2 days, and that way I haven't made a $10,000 deposit, and that way I'll get around alerting the IRS.
Because they're smart.
They're smart. You see, this is how they're thinking. So when you say go get a lawyer, okay, that's the smart thing to do, and that's what they should do. I'm just telling you, you have to temper that. You have to temper that because, again, they don't think they're going to get caught. You know, so when they get busted, you assume that they're caught up in the thrill of the hustle. They're caught up in the thrill of the hustle. They're caught up in the fruits of the hustle. They're caught up in the thrill, the rush from the fruit from the hustle. So they're not thinking about, I'm going to get, my best friend is going to tell on me. They're not thinking about that. They're not thinking about, my baby mama may become the state's, may turn state evidence against me, may snitch me off. They ain't thinking about none of that. They're not thinking about their best friends may set them up to get robbed. They're not thinking about any of that. They're not thinking about their best friends are going to rob them because their best friends know where their money is. They're not thinking about any of that.
My response still remains the same. If you are a criminal, I call an attorney and put $1,000 in their trust account. That'll get you some phone calls.
Actually, you might remember. Hold on. Look at this picture. What you said about putting money in and out. This is the standard money laundering scheme. Collection of money. We had to go through this when I was a financial professional. Collection of money, placement, and layering. That's when you're putting the money in because you're too smart to put it all in at once, and then integration. This is a recognizable pattern that will still get you arrested.
But see, they don't know that chart. They ain't hip to that chart though, because all they know is they didn't put it in at one time. So they think they're going to get away because they didn't put it all in at one time. You know, and they're not looking at the fact that they just handed a conspiracy case to the girl who deposited the money. They're not looking at that. They're not looking at that at all. The only thing they're looking at is that, look, you can't bust me because I didn't put in $10,000 at one time. Now, we all know this is going to end up in a plea agreement. This is how these things end up. They end up in a plea agreement. Somebody got to take a plea. But when Ashley says get an attorney, and she's right, by the way, they should get attorneys. But in 10 years of doing this, Ashley, I'm sorry. My faith has gone. My faith has fled. They're not going to get an attorney. That's not going to happen.
Ashley, read what he just turned in. What Marvin Battle said. You might be able to.
I can't see that.
Well, let me read it to you.
He said that sounds like prepaid legal.
No, BK said it sounds like prepaid legal. But get this. Marvin Battle Jr. said, I turned in late, Yusef. I didn't catch you or Ashley or the other sister who was on your show's qualifications. Can either of them give me tax advice for hire?
Where are you located?
So, yeah, Marvin, tell her where you're located. She may be able to be hired by you, in which case I don't want either one of you talking about anything you two discuss privately on my show.
Nope. Don't get me indicted.
I'm like, look, Your Honor, I had no idea.
Yep. I'm telling you, they call me. I'm telling on everybody. Don't call me. I'm telling on everybody. I'm saying, Judge, it was Yusef's show. He ain't even in the country. That other woman on there, she was a lawyer. I ain't have nothing to do with it. He sent me a link, and that was the only reason I came up there. I'm not part of this conspiracy, Yana. Hey. I'm telling on everybody.
Hey, listen, man. Everybody. I tell people the same thing. I remember, I remember, you know, telling one of my cousins who I think he had a bright idea to do something stupid, and I said, "Don't ever talk about it around me," because and I tell people this all the time. If they show me that cheap dry ham sandwich they show you on television, the prisoners, all they have to do is show me a picture of that sandwich and say, "What? You might be in a place where this is what you're gonna have to eat for lunch every day for years." That alone is enough for me to tell everything. You don't even have to threaten me with the time. It's just like, look, if this really what you, I'm that soft.
I'm not. Dog, what TV show you been watching? They don't serve those sandwiches no more.
What? Well,
I serve those sandwiches no more.
I guess I had one of those scared straight moments because it impacted me as a child. We had a congressman who had a famous son. This is the last story. I'm gonna let Ashley, Mr. Maceo, get back to the civilian lives. We had a famous, I believe it was a congressman. He had a son who ran a special juvenile detention center. And one day at our school, they hired a bunch of different presentations, and they took all the children had been identified as basically children that are doing really well, on the right track. And we had a day of teachers and university people telling us how smart we were and how good we were. And then he walked on stage, which we thought was odd. He says, "Hi, does anybody know who I am?" They were like, "Yeah, don't you run the children's center over here?" And he said, "Well, yeah, but it's a special children's center. Does anybody know what you have to do to get in there?" And we were like, "Something bad." He said, "Yes, it's got to be a violent crime for minors." He looked at us, he said, "Listen, I want to be clear. I'm here because all of you are on the right track. But I want you to know that if you mess up, if you do something stupid, if you get involved with people do it, people don't understand. If Tony and I are walking down the street and Tony decides to batter an old woman, I'm going down for that time with him." He said, "Let me explain to you what will happen. You will come into my office on the intake, and beg me and say, remember me. I was a good kid. Help me, help me. He says, you better hope I don't remember you because I knew you had a chance. And I will put you in the cage with one of the most rabid, abusive roommates that will make sure you want to hang yourself by your shoelaces within the very first 24 hours of your arrival. We were like, I was done. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to stick with this square game and see how that works out.
Well, my man said he's from California, so that's where he's at. Ashley, Mr. Battle said he's in California. I got. There's another thing here. Somebody, BK says $1,000 for a retainer. That might get you one document file. Someone's gonna need more money.
$1,000 will get you your phone call answered.
But that's what I'm saying. But see, the thing is okay. Crime, and here is the final lesson. Well, not the final lesson. Here's the most important lesson. Crime is expensive. Crime is expensive. It's not expensive when you're hustling. I take that back. Economically, it is expensive when you're hustling. But it is exorbitant when you get caught. Crime is not a cheap enterprise. So when Ashley says, well, time $1,000 will get you, that's a hell of a lot easier. That phone call, I can't begin to explain to you how they live and die by that phone call. This is Securitel Inc. This is a collect call from, hey, come see me. Hey, come see me. Click. Because when they got busted, they don't even have money to put on the phone to call a lawyer. So if the attorney will not collect calls, they won't get through. They won't get through.
Ashley, how do you want to handle this? Because, Uncle Adrenius, good guy, friend of the show, he said, in what states can Ashley offer advice? Now, here's my question for you. Do you want me to post something about how to contact you? Would you rather people contact me and then I relay that information to you? Or would you just rather say, hey, this is not a day for me to do that?
You can put the firm's website up there. I actually own a law firm, and I also own a business consulting firm. They can put the law firm.
Or do you want me to
the law firm is Rippy, RIPPY, lawfirm.com. And I am currently working on applications for Tennessee and Texas to be licensed there. As far as California, I can refer you to an attorney in California. Again, I don't do taxes in entertainment districts. California is one. So I can refer you to someone. But Tennessee, Arkansas, Texas, we can talk.
It?
That's it.
There's a question in there, isn't it?
Rippy and steps. So everybody, this is a place you can go. Get all your things met. Let me back up. Two things. One, I want to read you something from BK. Crime is expensive. Shit, being legal is expensive too in some situations. Self-employment, tax levy, and deduction.
Yes, that's true. It is expensive. But so, are you saying by that statement, crime is preferable? Crime is preferable because, see, paying taxes and all the rest of those expenses keep you out of jail. They keep you out of jail. Try getting locked up and trying to put some money on the phone. You want a meaningful challenge? I challenge you to try to put $100 on the phone and let it last over one day. Put $100 on your phone when you get locked up and see if it lasts over one day.
Yeah, well, I've read many articles about how that's one of the biggest rackets in in the world is how they overcharge prisoners for everything and then pay them $1 an hour. But that's a different story. Let's do this. Uncle Ladrinia said, Tony, how much is an appropriate retainer amount? If you had to tell somebody, put this on the retainer in case you screw up, and I'm hoping Uncle Ladrinius is not going out criming and criminaling and taking this advice, what would you say to put on a retainer? Ashley, what about you?
It depends on the charge, but I know like one of the top attorneys here, he won't see you unless you're coming in with $5,000. And that's like for a basic misdemeanor. So felony charges, you're 10, 15 in, you know, just your family, just to talk to him. And
just to tell you, I'm not interested, you're going to pay him 15.
Well, no, he's telling you you need 15 to come in. So he will even pull up the case and, you know, read about it. Because granted, you're going to come in and tell me one thing, but the court document's going to tell me another. So for him to actually look at the court documents,
which goes back to what Tony was saying about how people, they lie to that edge of, you know, how far away can I get with this without. Hey, listen, this is what we're going to have to do. First, Ashley, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you taking time to share your hard-earned wisdom, because let's not forget, all the stuff that Ashley's giving us for free, she paid a premium for in time and hard cash. She's giving us things that she had to bleed and sweat for, and we want to let her know how much we appreciate that sacrifice. Okay. Tony, you know, you were a bail bondsman. You know what I'd like to do? I'd like to have a discussion one day with you. Do you know any actual bounty hunters? They could come on with you and you can get some war stories out of you guys.
Well, I know some bounty hunters, but war stories, they wouldn't tell that in the light of day because it's not exactly on the other side of on the respectable side of the law, you know, because as a bounty hunter, we don't have the protection. As bounty hunters, we don't have the protection that police officers do. So sometimes we have to operate in the gray area. We have to be creative. Let me say that. We have to be creative in terms of bringing back fugitives, tracking down fugitives.
Okay.
So
well, maybe we can get them
I'm sure I have one partner who is who may do it. I have one partner who may do it out of Columbus. He may do it. I may, you know, see if he would be interested in doing something like that.
Well, we can set him up with a screen name, you know.
Yeah, we would have to maintain. We would definitely have to maintain anonymity. Because I call him, there's the dog. Well, here I call him the wolf, you know, and he goes almost anywhere. Because, you know, in some states, you know, bail isn't legal. And sometimes these guys get the bright idea to go across state lines to places where bail, you know, where there's no bail. And so if you effectively go and snatch them up across state lines, you are committing a felony. That's called abduction and kidnapping. And if you take them across the state lines, that's a violation. It was a law reserved for really back in the day when for Jack Johnson, called the Mann Act. But it's been extended today to bail bondsmen. If they go across state lines and snatch somebody and bring them back across state lines, they can be charged under the Mann Act, as well as state violations, state law violations as far as kidnapping and abduction is concerned.
Now, is that only if they get caught? Because if they return him to his home state, they've already gotten away with it, right?
If he doesn't get caught, he's gotten away with it. If he doesn't get caught, he's gotten away with it.
But if somebody puts something in your trunk,
there are times I can remember one of my friends snatched this guy up and threw him in the trunk, and he kicked the trunk all the way back to the Ohio state line. He beat boom, boom, let me out of here, boom, boom, all the way back to, drug him back to Ohio, kicking and screaming in the trunk, trying to get someone's attention so that, you know, we could get pulled over and he could get let out. So it's not something that's very few. I'm one of the lucky ones in that I got out before I caught a felony. But a lot of bail bondsmen are just like one eyelash, just the blink of an eyelash from catching a felony. Catching a felony.
Wow.
So it's not one of those things that's for the weak at heart, because again, you can easily become a criminal. You can go and catch a criminal and become one. So, you know, as the man said in the movie Menace to Society, it's funny like that in the hood. You know, you can go to apprehend a criminal and wind up catching a case.
Well, listen, having
So
said
my
that,
advice still stands. If you are a profitable criminal, you need an attorney on retainer.
Yes. What you said 1,500, I would say 5,000. I would say take him 5,000. And you're absolutely
You're
right.
gonna have a hard time getting an attorney to hold that 5,000 and not be able to bill against it, because we have to report every month what's in our trust account.
Right.
So
Well, I was saying as a retainer, not specifically on the case. I was saying put
that's what I
one,
mean. For retainers, any money that we haven't earned, we have to put what's
put in
in
trust, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So
Well,
I have to account for that.
that's what I'm saying.
So
I would take them $5,000, put it in the trust until I call you. That's what I'm saying. Because
and I'm
see,
saying you're gonna have a hard time, because if I have to let that sit there and I have to keep watching it, we're gonna have a problem.
well, then if you spend it and you don't earn it, you got a bar complaint.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
then
So that's
that's
what I'm
all
saying.
I'm talking about.
$1,000 will get your call answered.
Okay, well, I would say 1,000, because see, the attorneys I know, the way they do it is they look at what you've been charged. I'm talking about criminal defense attorneys here.
Hmm.
They look at what you've been charged with, and they look at the weight of what you got caught with. They look at the street value. This is how they determine what your retainer fee is going to be. They look at the street value of what you got caught with, and that's what they're going to charge you with. Now, what he comes through that door is going to be nowhere near the street value of what he got caught with. So what he's coming through the door with a lot of times is he's coming through the door with the mentality of a payment plan. The attorney is looking at him from the perspective of a cash out. So right away, you got two competing interests. You got two different perspectives, two different philosophies, two different mentalities going on at one time. So when I say 5,000, okay, is this $5,000 enough for a bar complaint? Because a bar complaint is very cumbersome. Most attorneys don't want bar complaints. They don't want anything to do with bar complaints. So although it may be hard for you not to spend it, well, it'll be harder for you to justify it if I have to go to the bar on you, because that's the
Oh,
only leeway you
not
have.
hard. So let me clarify about what I mean by retainer. So I take retainers to make myself available to you, and
Uh-huh.
you become a client.
Uh-huh.
So $1,000, we're signing an engagement letter, and you are my client. Not
Right.
so much as I'm only charging you $1,000 to do this. No,
Right.
I'm charging you $1,000 to take your phone call through my client line, whereas the general public line gets this phone number. Clients get this separate phone number.
Okay. I get that. My thing was this. I'm out here right now. I'm messed up. Here's 5,000. I don't have a case at present. There are no cases pending against me at present. But I want you on retainer for when I get caught. When I get caught, I want you to answer my phone call. Not only do I want you to answer my phone call, I want you to show up the next day in court and ask for that bond reduction, because I know the judge is going to hit me with a bond that I don't have money for right now. This is how I'm looking at it. So when you catch me and you catch me with possession with intent to distribute, or you catch me on a conspiracy case and it's an F3, and we're looking at a bail schedule that runs starting at $10,000 to $25,000 on a third-degree felony. That's usually going to run you anywhere between $10,000 to a $25,000 bond if you don't have a record. If you do have a record, it could be as high as $100,000, depending on the severity of your past, of your record. So what I want to do is I want to have that attorney to come. One, I want you to answer my call. Two, I want you to show up in court tomorrow when I get arraigned, and I want you to ask for a bond reduction. Okay, because those are the two most important things you need when you get arrested. One, you need somebody to pick up. Two, you need representation when that arraignment comes down. And three, you need that bond reduced so you can get back out on the street, because you can fight a case easier on the street than you can locked up. So that's what that $5,000 is for. I'm paying for time. I'm paying for a section of your time. I'm not coming to you saying, okay, this is $5,000, bill against it and bill it up. No, 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 no. What I'm saying is I'm coming to you before I catch the case. I know I'm going to get locked up. My best friend is going to tell on me. Sooner or later, I'm going to do something grimy to my baby mama, and she going to turn me in sooner or later. I'm going to do something grimy to one of the side bras that I'm banging, and they going to turn me in sooner or later. So let me go ahead and get ahead of the game now so that when I get knocked, so when I sell to that undercover geeker or drug addict, so when I sell to that undercover agent, when I get busted, I want that lawyer to come in. One, make sure my charge stays a state charge and not a federal charge. Two, ask for a bond reduction. And three, answer my call. That's what that $5,000 is for. Now, I know when I get out, he's going to charge me. That retainer is going to be more than $5,000. I know that. I know he's going to come with some more money.
That retainer is gone.
You broke up slightly. I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
If they're writing. Oh, I said, yeah, that retainer is gone. It's spent. Doing all of that? No, it's spent.
Exactly. It's gone. It's gone. So you're going to owe him about 15 or 20 more. You see, you're going to owe him about 15 or 20 more on that kind, and that's a conservative estimate. So what I'm saying, I need to get back out on the street so I can operate. I need to get back out so I can be a profitable criminal. I need to get back out so I can make his retainer fee to keep him on the case. But you can't do that if you locked up, because if you locked up, they've hid the money because they don't trust anyone. The baby mama's going to spend it on BS, or the dudes who he's supposed to be splitting it with or who he got shady with is going to take it and spin it and trick it off at the strip club or on some other enterprise. So that money would be used to pay for, to ensure that he gets back out on the street so that he can stand a fair shot at getting a basic plea deal or beating the case.
Before we get to plea deals and beating the case, I had a question, and it's something that I couldn't quite figure out. First, by the way, BK said Tony Mayfield, that's way too much logic and coherent thought for a street criminal.
And that's the damn problem. And that's the damn problem.
And that's where $1,000 is where they can start.
Ashley, if I'm a criminal and I'm out on the street criminaling, and I give you money, $5,000, is where that money came from? Isn't that going to come up? Like, isn't somebody going to say, hey, you got caught being a criminal and you gave her money? Could somebody even give you money if it came from criminal stuff?
Well, it depends on what it is. It depends on what it is. Most times they don't question it because it could come from anywhere. So they don't want to sit back and wind up chasing ghosts trying to trace down where this money came from. $1,000, ain't nobody give a damn about $1,000. $1,000 is nothing. Yeah? Okay.
Is that something for you?
No, that's nothing.
Hold on. Let Ashley go with that. Is that true as a practicing attorney? Is that something that
I'm not required to ask where money came from? That's why $1,000. Because I mean, at an hourly rate of $500, that's 2 hours you're going to get from me. Mm-hmm. So $5,000. Again, if I have $5,000 sitting in my trust account that I have to track, I'm number one annoyed because I have to track this every month. Mm-hmm. And you don't call me for 7 months, but you commit this crime and the FBI figures, oh, he gave her money. It's sitting in her trust account. That's not her money. They can come back and get that money in some circumstances. So $1,000, whole lot, and this is not legal advice.
She's flying under the radar with $1,000. That's what she's trying to tell you.
So you sticking $5,000 over there, and they're calling me.
You can pay an attorney with dirty money.
Sure, you can.
You specifically, actually. I mean,
it depends on what it's for. If it's a federal conspiracy case, if it's one of those federal cases, yeah, they want to know where that money came from. Because I can remember being in the shop one night and these people came in with $100,000 on a guy that had $1 million bond. They came in with $100,000 to pay and get this guy out. And then after we did the paperwork, after we did as much collateral as they had to offer, which wasn't nearly the amount to collateralize $1 million bond. They had only about $175,000 in collateral, but they had 100 stacks. No sooner as they walked out that door, got in their car and got to the corner to turn a left to go up 2nd Street, the marshals hit our office and said, "Give it up. Give it up. We want every penny. Give it up." And we had to give it to him. We had to sit there and take it and give it to him.
But the guy didn't get out of prison, right?
No, he didn't get out. He went straight from the county straight to federal prison. He went from Montgomery County Jail to Big Sandy. So on federal violations, yes. On federal case, excuse me, not federal case, on conspiracy cases, I mean to say. On conspiracy cases, yeah. High level conspiracy cases, yeah. You can lose it. But see,
crime.
Ashley saying 1,000, yeah, well, no, these were street crimes, but they were expensive street crimes because these were profitable criminals, you know, and that's why Ashley said $1,000.
You don't do a lot of time unless it's a white collar crime. That's what we consider a white collar. That's not a drug charge.
Well, these were, sweetheart, these were drug charges. I know what you were saying, but these were drug charges. These were, but
they got the most time for that white collar crime. That paperwork crime.
If you want to call that paperwork crime, but in any event, he did get a stretch. He did get a stretch. But you know, when they come in there and they can repossess that money. So when Ashley says $1,000, she's flying under the radar for that $1,000. Nobody's gonna question $1,000. Now, the more you drop, and depending on the severity of the case, yes, they will question that. They will question that, depending on the severity of the charges.
Wow, we got to get out of here because this right here, these legal battles can go back and forth on the hypotheticals. I had no idea what I was putting my foot in. Thank you both. Tony, I always appreciate the colorful way you add nuance to these discussions.
I didn't mean to scare y'all tonight. I just gave y'all a touch of the wild side. I'm sorry.
So let's do this.
I apologize, Miss Ashley. I'm sorry. YusefWateef, I apologize.
Love having you. That's why I invited you. I love you.
What's the apology for?
So we're going to say goodbye to the team, and we're going to go behind stage and have some cake together to celebrate a beautiful conversation.